This is Spyro the Dragon, from Spyro the Dragon on the original PlayStation. The design team went for a cutesy yet cartoony design for our favorite purple dragon. And of course this design worked well throughout his trilogy. But then came Skylanders and his head got bashed in by a boulder, and he was never the same. When Skylanders made its debut in 2011, the developers were given a choice to revive a Vivendi franchise, and they chose Spyro the Dragon. I mean, it was either that or the Scorpion King on the Game Boy Advance. They just couldn't make it work, unfortunately. So the developers chose Spyro, and I guess the original design just wasn't cutting it for them, so they redesigned the iconic purple dragon. And although they stated reinventing the character as a really gritty, strange, otherworldly Spyro didn't seem like a promising idea, they made a really gritty, strange, otherworldly Spyro. I mean, naturally, after being bashed in the face with a rock, all his teeth fell out, leaving the poor bastard with 4 fangs instead of his perfect smile he had back on his debut. This also did a number on his snout, making him look more like a pug as it was flattened a lot more. Scales were added to his skin instead of having a solid purple pattern, which I'm guessing was done for the grittier realism that was the norm back at that time. Thankfully, the devs got their shit together for the Reignited trilogy, which remade the first 3 games. They even gave him some dentures to replace the 3 goblin teeth he had left. Although Skylanders was such a massive success, I'm glad that the current design is a lot closer to what we originally had, and not one that shows up if I say Spyro backwards 3 times in the middle of the night. Sure, it did its job, but it was such a big difference from the original, but I guess that was just the trend during that time where redesigning a character. Heavy on the realism and grittiness and toned down the whimsiness. I mean, just look at what they did to poor Bomberman! Can you believe they forgot his vest was blue? Unbelievable, this team. Bomberman Act Zero. Holy shit, what the fuck happened? Released in 2006 for the Xbox 360, the game took the franchise to a more realistic, darker setting, with it being set in a dystopian future. And of course, this guy was just not gonna cut it. In what is probably one of the worst art direction changes I've seen in a while. The original Bomberman design was changed to this. It's like they had a contest on who could make the most recognizable Bomberman redesign at the dev team, and somehow this was the best they had. Okay, well, like I said before, he's missing the blue of his outfit, but that's just the start, as the whole thing is so devoid of color compared to the original. Then of course, how can I not mention the piss-colored Iron Man lights all over his suit? But of course, you can't forget adding protection when making an armor, right? So they added random ass armor plates all over the important parts like the shoulders, shins, and of course, your fucking Why is his left hand so big? Buddy, if that's how big your hand is, I don't think that's gonna be enough protection. You know what makes this redesign even worse than it already is? When I first saw this, I thought it was a guy wearing a suit or something like that. And I was right. But where I was wrong was on what the suit was. I was watching gameplay of this game to see the suit in action, only to find out that the suit was everything that isn't gray. The gray parts are your naked ass body. So these little red parts of the suit is the entire suit. And if you don't think that's weird, how about now? Why did games try so hard to seem hardcore and realistic back then when the old designs were perfectly fine? Sure, this guy was blowing shit up all the time, but I could look past that because the design works. This guy, however, is on the FBI's most wanted list for blowing up his local library. And despite trying to push this hardcore realistic agenda with these designs, the game has the exact same gameplay loop as the other games. So what the fuck was the point? And not to beat a dead horse here, but also the game was ass. And speaking of games that were ass and tried to take a more realistic approach, Sonic 06 had a couple of redesigns for our favorite furry friends, and they were all pretty good and meshed well with the environment. Until you get to the humans. Yeah, that was pretty weird. But this video isn't about bestiality. It's about bad redesigns, and of course the game being set alongside realistic looking humans. The Mad Doctor would definitely stand out if he looked like this. So they gave him golden nipples and then got rid of whatever the fuck these are and gave him a bald ass head. And of course you can't forget his baby blues. So majestic. All in all, I guess it's not a terrible adaptation of his design in the real world, but like, why? Sure, it looks fine, but would you want to see Mario look like this in his next game?
Super Mario in real life.
Thankfully, after this, Eggman has pretty much looked exactly the same throughout the games, only slightly different in Sonic Boom. But it still looks fine. What doesn't look fine is what they did to the main cast. In 2013, Sega threatened us with this teaser showing silhouettes of 4 of the main characters. Here we can see Sonic, Amy, Tails, and Quasimodo. It wasn't until a bit later that we saw the entire cast revealed with their entirely new redesigns. Tails and Amy being the least egregious of them, just sporting a different outfit, but for some reason we decided to wrap Tails' shoes in bandages. Sonic is where we start getting to the more obvious changes, with him having blue arms instead of his regular tan arms, despite still giving Amy her regular arms. He also has a few more quills in his head and also a scarf. And of course, can't forget the bandages. Finally, we have the behemoth that is Knuckles. He's fucking massive and dumb as rocks in this game, but little known fact about him. Unlike his regular counterpart that can only glide, this Knuckles is able to soar in the sky. Yeah, if we're being honest, the designs weren't as terrible as the game was. The game went on to be the worst selling Sonic title in the franchise's history, and rightfully so. The game was awful and glitched out to hell. Thankfully, these designs were only for the Sonic Boom games and not the main games, although even that one needs to change by now. Looking back at the concept art, however, it could have been worse. Much worse. It really is tough to ask to redesign a character, especially one that already has a following. Sometimes it's too much in one direction and you get stuff like Banana Hair Ken in Street Fighter V, or sometimes it's out of left field, like the change in Peter Parker's face in Spider-Man. Changing the design of an iconic franchise character is such a tough task for developers, and we need to understand that sometimes people make mistakes, and sometimes people make Crash Mind over Mutant. Yeesh. Understanding the difficulty in the task is why we need to be so grateful to companies that get this right. For example, Rare, who developed many hit franchises such as Banjo-Kazooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day, and even the Donkey Kong Country series on the SNES. Which brings up an amazing redesign that is the Donkey Kong redesign. Before Rare, this is what Donkey Kong looked like. Well, technically, that's Cranky Kong, and our current Donkey Kong is Donkey Kong Jr. And if you didn't know, Donkey Kong Jr. also speaks.
I got Donkey Kong, and now I'll get you too, Junior.
I'm Donkey Kong Jr., and that's my papa. I'm trying to save him and boy, do I need your help.
When Rare developed the Donkey Kong Country series, they had the task of redesigning Donkey Kong, and they did such a great job that it redefined the character for the next 2 decades, until they put him down in Bonanza. Rare really does such an amazing job when they redesign their characters, which is why Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts is such a goddamn disappointment. Oh my god. They forgot his fucking belt. So Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts released an Xbox 360, and as Banjo explains, they may have put on a couple pounds. Oh, don't even worry about it, Banjo. I couldn't even notice. And once this COVID shit is over, you'll bounce back on your feet. Also, for some reason, every 10 steps, Banjo will interrupt my gameplay to fat shame Kazooie. It's either that or telling us that he should have ordered a small pizza. Every 10 fucking steps. I'm not even joking, I count it. And of course, because he is such a fat fuck, he will... Because he is such a fat fuck, he will... Yes, small pizza, I get it. Because he is such a fat fuck, the screen shakes every time you jump. Never in my life did I think I would ever hear an overweight Banjo gasping for breath every time he walks. For some reason, Rare decided to make Banjo fat as fuck in this game. And the early concept art for the game actually reveals that Rare had 8 different versions of Banjo being fat. Oh yeah, everything from an overhang, high waist, and even fucking boobs. Thank you for sparing us from that, Rare. I really did not want to see emotion to... Can you shut the fuck up? Thankfully, not even 10 minutes into the game, this monitor with the cape shows up. It's probably a Holter monitor if you can't even breathe right. This guy spares us from seeing Banjo in such a terrible fate and gives him Ozempic, and he is back in shape. Unfortunately, his design still kinda sucks compared to the original. Sure, he's not suffering from heart failure, but now for some reason he's all blocky. All his rounded features just sort of got cubed, and he lost his color. I guess they were getting him ready for that Minecraft DLC skin pack. Also, they made Kazooie look like this for some reason. All in all, these designs sucked compared to the original ones, which didn't help them as the game was also pretty awful. Unfortunately, believe it or not, this remains Banjo-Kazooie's final official design if we don't count crossovers, as this was the final Banjo-Kazooie game made. So unless you count crossovers like Smash where he hit the fucking gym, god damn. The last official design we have is this. Unfortunately, it seems like Rare lost its touch when it comes to redesigns, and it should be left onto better hands like Nintendo. Never mind. So the Rare created character Tiny Kong was designed to look like this. A younger Kong with a childlike outfit, which worked well because she is Trixie Kong's younger sister. In 2007 though, Nintendo decided she needed to be redesigned, and we got this. Okay, I guess she got older. I mean, it's almost been a decade since her last debut, so it makes sense she looks older. So what does Trixie Kong look like now? Oh, I guess they made her the older sister then? No, she is still the younger sister of Trixie. What the fuck? You tell me this one here is the older monkey or whatever the fuck they are? Genuinely, who the fuck would guess that? This design is so shit just from the lore aspect of it. Like, whatever, poop boobs on a monkey if you want to be that fucking freaky Nintendo, that's on you. But I draw the line at the lore of my monkey game being affected. Also, if she's wearing pants, why the fuck is Trixie flashing us? Oh god, if Amy's wearing clothes, does that mean Sonic is running butt-ass naked? Oh god, there's all too much. So many redesigns, I can't keep up. The room is spinning. Conker, buddy, you're not wearing pants either? I guess that makes sense, your game was rated M. Well, at least you died a graceful death, right? No more games after your hit classic on the N64? What's this? You had another game in 2016? Young Conker?
Conker's a much beloved property that has...
So the first time Conker walks across a couch and he starts bouncing.
Wait a minute. How do you know that's a couch?
Oh no. Please go back to being an alcoholic. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like as it helps out the channel tremendously. Also make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed content like this, as I will continue to upload more and more similar content. And once again, thanks for watching.